As strong as this world and its people are, it only takes a microbe to bring us to our knees. Nothing on earth decimates entire populations like disease. Not war or natural disasters. Single celled organisms are the cause of the most destruction. The Black Plague, smallpox, cholera, malaria have all crippled entire nations and killed millions and millions of people. None has affected the world like HIV and AIDS have in the 1980s. By 1984, there were 7,700 known cases and 3,700 known deaths caused by HIV and AIDS in the world, which doesn't seem like a lot at the time, but this was just the beginning stage of the disease. But by then, every continent in the world was affected, and it only began as a few cases of what was thought to be just a pneumonia type disease in mostly adult males. It was found that most of these beginning cases were those of gay men. This led to a premature diagnosis of sort that a lot of people came up and coined the term gay cancer for. In large cities with large populations of homosexual activity is where the majority of these cases came from. It wasn't until long after the 80s that it was scientifically proven that this disease did not even come from our country or our own species. It was found that it came from our subspecies, the chimpanzees. Came from eating the meat of the chimpanzee and coming into contact with infected blood. This was how little we actually knew about the disease, and were so quick to throw blame onto a mostly innocent gay population of our people. Little headway started to be made. The government was kind of offish about the entire situation. But the scientific community took over and came up with ways of understanding the disease and how to begin to fight it. In 1985, the first International AIDS Conference was held in Atlanta to begin to educate people on a global level and a national level. Outreach was formed by the World Health Organization. The information began to flow in, but the government of the U.S. was slow to grasp the magnitude of the disease and failed to implement quick and deliberate actions. The Cold War talks were in full swing between Gorbachev and Reagan. The disease kind of took a back seat to other international affairs. It wasn't a high numbers game in our nation yet. It was seen in Africa that the disease was spreading like wildfire, which should have been an indicator that the disease was serious and needed attention immediately in the United States. We started the beginning stages of vaccines, which, as everybody knows to this day, are unsuccessful. But we did find the root cause of the disease and how to begin treating it and slowing the pace down a little bit. But by this point, it was spreading like wildfire. In 1987, there were 400,000 known cases in the world and 100,000 cases known in the United States. This was enough to finally get the attention of our government, and they passed the Ryan White Care Act. It was implemented for people living with AIDS and HIV in the United States. At that point, it was finally happened where people could become diagnosed and treated properly with the disease and have a treatment plan implemented in their daily lives in the form of vitamins and other anti-inflammatory treatments to slow disease spread in the body. This extended a lot of lives in the United States and ultimately led to the mass education of our entire people, and the disease started to slow a little bit. After all these studies, after these health care acts were passed, after health organizations had conferences, the CDC got together, they finally realized that the biggest cause of the disease was intravenous drug use and the sharing of needles. This led to a lot of education in urban areas. That's when needle return programs started to be implemented, and that side started to slow down. But as everybody knows today, it's still the root cause and the root cause for spread of the disease in the world. Sexual education was sent out across the nation to hetero and homosexual communities alike. I remember the day I learned that Ryan White had died. It was my brother's 8th birthday. It was April the 8th, 1990. I was 12 years old, and I had no clue who this 19-year-old boy was, how or why he died. He was simply infected in a transfusion he was having to treat his hemophilia. Since the 1980s, 70 million people have been affected, 35 million have died. Could have been prevented. The scale of this entire disease could have been prevented if it would have been seen as the global threat that it became. Thank you.